Hi everybody, I wanted to take a few minutes to review with you the three-part community needs and services assessment project that you will be working with your partner over the course of the semester. So if you go to the main course page under major projects and assignments, you'll see this overview, three-part community needs and services assessment completed with the Dyad partner. And I know we have one group of 3 in this class as well. So, for this project, you and your partner are going to be engaging in a community assessment related to one of your field placements or a field of interest if you are not yet in a placement. I know that some people may be at different points in the program. The community that you choose to focus on could be either a geographic community, so a neighborhood or a city or a town. It could be a community related to a specific issue, so perhaps a community of individuals who are homeless, or a community of individuals who have mental health issues, or it could be a community of interests. So an example would be perhaps you're interested in Mexican immigrants, or maybe you're interested in LGBTQ communities, or there are many, many others that could fall into any of these categories. It's also possible that you might be interested in a community that is a combination of these categories. So, for example, I currently live in a geographic community, a town called Hillsborough, and so maybe I'm interested in Hillsborough, and I know that Hillsborough has a significant population of Mexican immigrants. So maybe the community that I'm interested in is specifically Mexican immigrants in Hillsborough. Or maybe I'm interested in LGBTQ populations and I live in Philadelphia. So I'm specifically interested in looking at LGBTQ communities in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia community. So my point is that your community can be a combination of these types of communities, and that's all going to depend on the interests of you and your partner. So once you've identified your community, and you will be doing that in week 2, and if you have any questions about whether whether what you're thinking about meets the criteria of a community, you can certainly feel free to email me and we can talk that through. But you'll be identifying your community in week 2. And then for assignments 2, 3, and 4, you're going to be studying this community through social work lenses. So you're going to be looking at issues of community well-being. You're going to be assessing strengths of the community, analyzing issues of social, cultural, and economic justice and injustice, evaluating the resources available to the community, addressing how social policy affects the community, identifying the key players and stakeholders in the community, evaluating how existing social services either contribute to the liberation of the community or maybe maintain the status quo or oppress even the community. Then you're going to come up with a plan to address a specific problem within that community. And finally, you're going to take part in an actual intervention. So you're going to do all this. That might sound a bit overwhelming and like a lot, but you're going to be taking all that on through the submission of 3 separate assignments. So there's 3 parts. And those are assignments 2, 3, and 4. In assignment 2, which is sort of the first phase and is due on Sunday of week 4, you're going to be conducting a community needs analysis. The second phase, which is assignment 3 and due Sunday of week 6, after you've done your analysis, you're going to be doing a community needs and services plan. And finally, the third phase, in assignment 4, you're going to be participating in a community advocacy activity, and that's going to be due Thursday in week 7, and involves writing a press release and a letter. Another way to think about this assignment, I know from reading your introductions that it sounds like that most of you have been involved in direct client practice and social work at the individual level. And so most of you, I think, are probably familiar with conducting a needs analysis, or really an assessment of an individual and what an individual's needs are. So that, and then once you've done that, based on that assessment, you've developed a service plan to address the individual's needs. And then after you've developed that service plan, you've then taken some sort of intervention, right, to address the needs that you've identified in the individual. So you can sort of think of these projects that you're going to be engaging in this semester as conducting an assessment developing a service plan and implementing an intervention for a community as opposed to an individual. I think there are a lot of parallels between the two. And I hope that maybe thinking about it that way will help you wrap your head around this if it's feeling a little bit foreign to you. And in this case, instead of working with an individual client, we're talking about a community and considering what the needs of the community are, developing a service plan to address those needs, and then implementing an intervention at the community-based level. So I will discuss assignments 3 and 4 in more depth as we get a little bit closer to them. I am going to focus on assignment 2 right now, since that is the first one due in week 4, and I'm sure some of you will be anxious to get started with that. Before I talk about assignment 2, I want to preface that discussion by saying that a number of the readings that we'll be doing in week 3 are going to help you with this assignment. So as I'm going through it, if some of it sounds a bit unclear to you, I would ask you to kind of hold on until week 3, because I think some of it may fall into place a little bit better after you've done those readings. So let's turn to assignment 2. So I'm back on the main page, and you can see each of the assignments are here, and I'm sure most of you have looked at these already. So assignment 2, which is due in week 4, is your community needs analysis, and it's worth 10% of your final grade. Again, it's the first part of this project, and you and your dyad partner, or your group of 3, are going to provide an analysis of the community and its needs in detail. And this needs analysis is going to include 4 main components, and you're going to want to use headings for each component. First, you're going to be looking at community definition and demographics. So you're going to need to define the parameters of your community in terms of the name, the size, sort of what the borders are, and those borders could be geographic borders, or they could be sort of definitional borders. You know, maybe you're looking at homeless individuals as your population. Well, how are you defining homelessness? Or are you looking at homeless individuals in a specific geographic area? Borders could mean different things depending on the community you're looking at. And you also want to look at population characteristics, right? So things like gender, race, ethnicity, other demographic characteristics, much like you did in assignment 1 when you were looking at a specific community that you live in or are familiar with. And you can begin this research much in the same way that you did for assignment 1. You want to find out facts about the residents or the participants or the members of the group you're looking at. So you can certainly use the internet. You can use things like Policy Map and census resources, much like you did in assignment 1. You can contact organizations in the community or that serve the community you're interested in, and people in that community or outside of that community that might have access to existing reports about community conditions or issues. Human service organizations and churches are also really great sources of information. So maybe you're looking at homelessness in a particular city. So if I was looking at homelessness in Philadelphia, you know, maybe I know that there's an organization in Philadelphia. There is this organization called Project Home that is very much involved in working with the homeless population there and the homeless community there. So maybe I would go to their website and see if they have access to any reports or resources, or if there's a person at that organization that I could email and see if they could possibly direct me to a report about that community. I might also, if I was looking at homelessness in Philadelphia, maybe I would look at the City of Philadelphia's website and see what information might be there related to homelessness in that community and the availability of shelters and any plans the city has in place to address homelessness. So there's a lot of places where you can obtain this information. Under this community definition and demographics, you also want to describe the community's formal political structure. Any businesses related to the community or a business plan may be appropriate depending on the community you're looking at. And human services, political resources, and economic resources in the community. So you want to, again, look at the political structure, any businesses that may be related, and again, what the sort of resources are in the community. The second main component of this assignment is community needs data. So you want to include both statistical and narrative quality of life information from a variety of sources. And for this part, you'll be able to draw on the course material presented in week 3. So if this is sounding not too clear to you right now, again, if you hold on till week 3, you'll have some material that will help you with this. And then these sources should include at least 2 key informant interviews, ideally with the people that you identified in your week 3 discussion, as well as statistical secondary sources. So you are going to need to identify 2 key informants, which could be members of the community or perhaps people who work within that community, and you will need to conduct interviews with them that will inform this part of your project. The third main component are the community's strengths and assets. So you're going to want to include information about the community's assets, drawing again on the course material that you'll be reading and that will be presented in week 3. And you want to pay closest attention to assets that might be useful in your intervention plan when you get there. These might include existing social service organizations, major employers, institutions of higher learning, high levels of community participation. It's a number of things that might be included under community strengths and assets. And then the fourth and final component of this assignment is a community problem analysis. You're going to want to identify a target problem or issue that you're going to address in the next phases of the project, and provide your assessment of the problem, the size and scope, the causes of the problem, and again, you'll be drawing on the course material presented in week 3 to help you with this. And you'll also need to discuss issues that you'll need to pay attention to as you develop your intervention and advocacy plan. You'll also want to discuss how social policies affect the community, what issues of social, economic, and cultural justice affect the community, and existing social services and how they meet the needs of the community. So those are your 4 main components of this assignment. And again, after you do the readings for week 3, that material that's presented in week 3 should help you with much of this. So you're submitting this as a paper, okay, and it should be jointly written by both partners or all 3 partners if there's 3 of you in the group. If you're working with 2 people in your group, if you're a dyad, your paper should be between 5 to 7 double-spaced pages long, plus at least 1 page of tables, which could include your demographics in table form, a cover page, and a reference page. So again, that's if you're working in a dyad, it's 5 to 7 double-spaced pages, plus at least 1 page of tables, a cover page, and a reference page. If you are working in a group of 3, your paper should be 7 to 9 pages. I want to make sure that the writing is split equitably among group members. So if you're in a group of 3, your paper should be 7 to 9 double-spaced pages, plus at least 1 page of tables, a cover page, and a reference page. Only 1 submission for each group is required. So this is going to be a paper that you write jointly, and you're submitting 1 final paper. And it being jointly written, that it's up to your group to define sort of what that means. You can divide this up in different ways. If I was doing this, I would maybe 1 person would handle the community definition and demographics and the data, and the second person could take on the strengths and assets and problem analysis initially, and then you could send that to your partner, and they could maybe review it and maybe add anything that they think you might have missed, and vice versa. That's one way to do it. You should probably designate somebody who's going, maybe you have somebody on your team who's maybe a stronger editor than the other, and that person might agree to be the one to sort of proof the final draft to make sure all the pieces are in place. That's another approach. So it's up to you how you choose to do this, but it should be written jointly, and I would suggest, divvying up the work so that it's equitably distributed between the 2 people or the 3 people. Here is the grading rubric, which I think is fairly clear. You want to make sure you address each of the 4 major components and the subcomponents. You also want to make sure that you're using APA